Hello friend, I hope this finds you well. My name's Thrall. I'm a former Royal Marines Commando and I fought my way back from chronic trauma and addiction to live, work and travel in 80 countries across all 7 continents, achieving all of my dreams and goals along the way. Now I pass my simple system on to other people, but I can only help you if you like and subscribe. So please do so, because you get one life, and if you live it right, one is enough.
So we are on our way to the source of the Gambia River. Hello. Oh. Lots of hills, lots of hills. Poor girl's lost the plot and she started putting all the maize mix all over herself. It just feels it's totally wrong that they're tying her up.
Chaz, how are you?
I'm very good, Chris. How are you doing?
Yes, besides the technical issues we seem to be having, which apparently we're blaming that on Mr. Branson's broadband. Everything's wicked, mate. Absolutely wicked. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's the other way round, mate. I try and get guests whose life I want to be living, and yours, life of adventure, certainly seems one of them.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yes. You're on a boat, obviously.
Yes, my friend Tim, he's let me stay on his boat while lockdown's happening. Obviously, I live in a van for the most part, and during this lockdown, obviously we're not very free to roam, so he's let me stay on the boat with him during this time, really.
Brilliant. So there's 2 interesting things. What's it like living on a boat? And then I'm going to ask you, what's it like living in a van?
It's good. I mean, the boat's stationary at the moment, so we're not cruising or anything, but it's nice. It's a nice little cozy place, got a log burner, and it's quite a nice atmosphere around as well. Everyone's sort of like, similar minded in the area. So it's quite a nice place. And living in the van, I like being able to move around, and it's easy for work, and I can park anywhere, and it's whatever I look outside the window is my home, if it's mountains, forests, rivers. I just like to drive around and be in them places, really.
Is it like a camper van or like a transit type van?
It's a camper van, but at the moment I'm doing a new one up. I was living in a Mercedes van for a couple of years, and then I've bought a big transit van which I'm converting at the moment whilst this is obviously happening. So it's quite a big transit van, which I'm hoping going to be like the ultimate sort of expedition type home for me once it's finished.
I stayed in a little tiny Toyota minivan that my friend had converted into a camper. He'd even put a triangle-shaped double bed in, so it made more room at the back for cooking and storing your equipment. And he had all his snowboarding gear underneath the bed. I tell you what, it was one of the most fun things I've ever done, was staying in that van. and drove all around New Zealand in it for a few weeks.
Nice.
Just really great way to live. Really.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how much you can actually fit inside the van, and all these little nooks and crannies you can fill with different things. It's really good.
So you are a fellow of the Royal Geographic Society, which is, history personified goes back to the days of British exploration when we were sort of first colonizing many parts of the globe.
Yeah.
How I'd like to know, how as a young man, so as a boy, did you get the adventurous streak? What was it? Something
Yeah, I
you
mean,
read?
It's always a question I'm never fully able to answer. In like, there wasn't really anything that happened in my life, I don't think, that made me want to be this sort of way. But I think genetically, or just the way I am as a person, I just like to explore, and I always wanted to be outside in different environments. I always wanted to push myself further than other people. You know, if I saw a hill or a mountain, I'd want to climb it. I'd want to be camping in the forest. I guess, you know, there was some stuff, like I did a bit of Duke of Edinburgh, and I was in the Scouts for a while, and I just wanted to be outside all the time. And my parents were, you know, the complete opposite. They don't really do much outdoor stuff, and yeah, I don't know where I got it from in that side of things, but I just always wanted to do it, you know. And as soon as I got to an age where I could travel and go further, I just got a real taste for it, and I've never really stopped.
Did you read adventure stuff when you were a kid?
I guess so. Not necessarily about like real life adventure, more like, you know, like I don't know, sort of adventure storybooks and sort of similar sort of things that might want to inspire me. You know, like Enid Blyton, you know, and sort of Famous Five and all that sort of stuff. Really, that
Yeah,
I guess.
I read all of her sort of adventure-y type books because I just wanted to be those kids going away on these amazing mystery tours and going to Cornish Islands and finding hidden railway tunnels and all this kind of crazy stuff. But I tell you what had a massively profound effect on me was Willard Price novels.
Okay.
Did you read any of them?
I haven't. No, I've never read any. Yeah.
It's probably a little bit like the J.K. Rowling books. I reckon as an adult you could read Willard Price and still really enjoy them. He wrote about two boys, Hal and Roger, and their dad owned a zoo in New York. Bit of a contentious issue these days, but back then it was, you know, we didn't know such things. But he would send his boys on expeditions around the world to capture rare species for his zoo, and as such, each episode or each book would have a whole adventure based around them, say in the African jungle, or, you know, in the Congo, or in Polynesia, diving, and all these. And I would sit in class with my exercise book like this, and I'd have the Willard Price book inside the exercise books, and I'd just be reading that the whole lesson. I used to read a book in a day.
I think you've inspired me to want to read them myself now. I think it sounds fascinating.
He's going to his Waterstones will see a spike in his books now.
Yeah, I'll have a go at that.
So, did you study anything upon leaving school or coming to the end of school that would help you go on to live this adventurous career?
To be honest, I wasn't really that focused at school, and I think I was always just a bit of a daydream. I always wanted to be out doing stuff, you know, and I wasn't really academic as such. And as soon as I sort of left school, all I wanted to do was just do, you know, just travel and move around. And I remember working for like a show, like putting up marquees, traveling around doing that when I was 16, and I ended up going off and working at Butlins and just wanting to do so. I didn't really have any education in mind, and I remember doing a test at school that basically tells you what you'd be suitable to do education-wise, and I put all information. It came back with, like, you know, animals, wildlife, you know, sort of environments, and then for some reason the result was information technology, and I was like, how is that possible? And then I pursued a career in, well, I went to college and did, you know, computers, and I soon realised I didn't want to do that. I don't know how that came about, and then yeah, I worked away. I worked away, but since I've sort of focused more on what I really want to do, I've gained my mountain leader qualifications and various different outdoor sort of qualifications, and became an expedition leader and bushcraft instructor and stuff like that. So I was always going to join the military when I was young. That was the main thing I wanted to do, and I never did. But that was always something throughout school. I was in the cadets and things like that, and I always had a sort of
Can
an
I
eye
say,
to do that, really.
just going to say something, mate, is obviously I get a lot of military guests, ex-military myself. Was talking the other day about this SAS Who Dares Wins program. They're doing the celebrity version at the moment. Right. And obviously it kind of goes without saying that the sort of people they have on this show are not really military material, probably by definition of the fact they haven't joined the military, done a few years in a unit or a regiment, and then decided to go for SAS selection. So it's obviously the contestants are not coming from that kind of gene pool, if we can call it that. Yeah. But my point was, you didn't, even from their personalities, you just don't get the sense that any of them would really be SAS material, right? Or that kind of thing. Just by talking to you, you could so easily be another Marine. It's right. For anyone at home that's wondering, what's the military put? It's this kind of, I don't know, this kind of unassuming, humble sort of nature.
I'd like to think it would have been something I'd have been good at, and I just never. I think I just wasn't very good at taking orders, and when I was young, I just wanted to sort of, be myself and travel around. And when it came to joining the army, and even later on in life, I went to join the RAF regiment, and it was just a case of the process in my mind just didn't really fit with the actual what I had to do. And I mean, I think I would have been good, and I think I would have enjoyed it, but it never happened,
Mate, you don't have to follow orders in the Marines. That's why we spend most of our time in trouble. Well, I did at least.
Yeah, I think I'd have been okay once I passed out and things, but yeah, get into that.
And so, talk us through then. How did you get into your first sort of expeditions and stuff?
Well, I sort of, obviously back when I was at school, I was doing like the DV and cadets, and I was sort of getting a taste for it. Really, I hadn't really done many expeditions as such. And when I left working at Butlins, I was working in kitchens there, and I didn't really have any kind of definite aim of what I wanted to do. And I ended up buying a round the world ticket. I went to New Zealand, Australia, America, Southeast Asia, and I just booked a ticket and I was gone. And after that, I couldn't really stop. I worked in New Zealand, I worked in Australia, I travelled around, travel across Africa, overlanding Africa, and I just travelled for about 8 years really before I even stopped and realised what I wanted to do. And then obviously came back home and started doing my outdoor qualifications and getting a mountain leader award and focusing on actual expeditions. And this last 5 years, I've pretty much done some big major expeditions, and sort of the more I've done, the more extreme they're becoming, really.
So when you went out in the big wide world, can you describe that for us? How was it rocking up in a foreign land for the first time, getting off the plane, putting your backpack over your shoulder and going for it?
I always had a craving to do it anyway, and I always wanted to do something like that. So the actual lead up to it was a bit nervous because I wasn't sure what to expect. But as soon as I sort of stepped foot, in a foreign country, and I started traveling and backpacking, it only took a few days, and I just felt amazing. Felt like this is what I want to do, and I just felt like I was anything that was on my weight, the weight on your shoulders as far as things back home or people's problems and any kind of work-related ties, all that's gone, and you're just free and you're traveling, and that's all you've got to focus on, really. So it felt incredible. And even to this day now, I think of doing it, I feel exactly the same as I did then, I've got that same exciting feeling about all that weight's gone, and I can concentrate on doing this journey and this sort of trip, like, really.
I so much relate to you. Once you get to the airport, that's it. Yesterday was yesterday, and then you're living in the now. It's a real. It's like, and also there's quite a lot of. It's quite stressful building up to going away, isn't it? There's so much stuff, especially if you're leaving like property at home or whatever it might be. There's so much stuff you have to get in place, and I find up into an expedition, I'm doing it right into the last minute. Literally, there's normally one or two things I'm like, I'm just gonna have to leave that, and then I go to the airport, and the second I'm in that airport, my bag's checked in. I'm in a different mode.
Yeah, exactly. Free. I mean, I think because I lead expeditions, there's always so much to organise as well, and I think me living a minimal lifestyle with a van, everything I've got's in that van. I have to find something to park in that's obviously safe, and then all these other little bits and pieces, like getting your visas, getting your equipment, getting your sort of anti-malarials and whatever else you need. Just there's a list of things that you need to do, and once you've got that in place, you've got no real worries. Well, I haven't. I guess people with like homes and things have got more to worry about, but so, it's really good.
Chaz, traveling, let's start with what's been your most alarming moment? Were you ever afraid for your, well, I mean, I don't mean your expeditions now, I mean you're traveling the world, you can get into some bloody precarious situations. There's a section in the Lonely Planet guidebook called Dangers and Annoyances, right? And it lists all the things that a backpacker needs to be aware of so you don't get ripped off, murdered, raped, or well, dead. Dead is murdered, but I'm saying it twice, folks, just so you know, right? But all those things in there have happened to either me or somebody I've been with, including the rape and the death. Did you have any experiences like that?
I've had, unlimited amount of experience. I guess expeditions is completely different. There's so much that's happened on expedition that was beyond them sort of categories, really. Sort of kidnap and near-death experiences and wild animals and things like that. But backpacking side of things, I think when you're backpacking, you try and do it cheap, so you'll stay in sort of areas that maybe aren't as affluent as you imagine the country to be. You'll stay in little cheaper places, and I've had a lot of sort of people shouting abuse and kids throwing rocks at me and stuff like that, and I've had quite a lot of hostility, even just backpacking. But I think the thing with backpacking, you're following a set route, and you're going to maybe like attraction to attraction, and I always feel quite safe when I'm backpacking, really. But on expedition, I've had just crazy amount of problems, and I've seen, I've had on expedition, for example, I've had dead people in front of me. There was a big bus that went off the road, and a number of dead people on the road and things like that, and I'm trying to resuscitate these people and get them in vehicles. And
where was this, Chaz?
That was in Malawi a couple of years ago. But on expedition itself, when I've been walking these rivers, I was kidnapped and beaten and put in a room for 3 days. I was I ran out of water in certain areas, and I had to try and get down. I fell down a cliff, smashed on my leg, broke my nose. A lot of problems with.
So the dead bodies all over, or the injured people all over the road, was that? I'm going to guess that was a bus crash, right? Or
it was when I was leading an expedition a couple of years ago. We were driving along, and everyone in the bus was pretty much asleep, and I was sat in the front with the driver, and I could see in the distance there was and you sort of half think, is it really happening? I could see a minibus circling in the road and going down this hill, and then I said to the bus driver, obviously, let's pull over. And me and the bus driver jumped out. There was a teacher in the back that jumped out with us, and I grabbed my first aid kit, and and there was the numerous people that had flown out the windows. There was people crushed inside the vehicle. There was people obviously bleeding and heads cracked open, and it was just,
And it,
horrific.
it was a bus, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a mini. In Africa they have all these mini buses filled with people, and it was one of them. There was probably about
in
12.
In such places, what they used to call third world or developing countries, now I believe the correct term is majority world countries, a lot of the drivers are just absolutely, they just have no understanding of the danger that at the speed they drive, isn't it? And a lot of them drive really drunk as well.
Yeah, I mean, they drink. Some of them don't have licenses. Some of them are underage. They could be. There's some dodgy. I mean, I remember being in one minivan, and this was in Zambia. We were getting a lift from one point to another, me and a friend, and this one bus driver we were with. There was loads of these minivans, but the one we were with, he must have had a dispute with another bus driver, and before we knew it, we were being chased by this other van, and then these other cars joined the chase, and we were getting. The minivan driver we were with, he was going off road, and they were following us, and we were thinking we were all going to get shot down or whatever. And in the end, he crashed the bus I was in into like a load of coal, charcoal sort of sails, and luckily he crashed where the police were, but they dragged him out of the car, and they were whacking him and beating him, and he was unconscious. And me and my friend in the back of this van were just like, hearts in our mouth, it's just, what is going on here,
I've driven a few times actually. I've actually driven up because I think I cycled down it's called the most dangerous road in the world. If I remember right, it's Bolivia. It's one of these roads where they've had to carve it out of the mountainside because there's it's just a steep jungle, vertical cliff, goes down at times hundreds of feet, or hundreds of meters, and the locals still drive like absolute idiots. And every sort of quarter of a mile there's some statue or some plaque commemorating backpackers that have died traveling that road. So you'll get, this is Sven and so-and-so Christina from Sweden died on this spot, living their life streams and all this sort of stuff. And every so often you look down into the jungle and there's a bus that has just spun around. Oh, it's gone off a cliff.
Yeah.
So it's just gone into free fall, spinning, or it's rolled down the jungle spinning. And of course you haven't got a hope of surviving that. And yeah, when you get to, I drove to India once, so I drove a bus to India. It's quite funny. It's perfectly normal, say in Pakistan or wherever, to just think this road's too rough, I don't like it, I'm going to go on the other side of the road and I'll just drive. It's actually not dangerous because everybody knows that's a normal thing to do. If you'd to do it in this country, everyone will wet their pants, man.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting. I don't want to talk too much about me, but I will say, my last actual my last world travel, I got kidnapped in the South American jungle. I've done a video, I've done a podcast about it for people listening. The time before that, I did a world travel, and I got attempted robbed about 8 times, of which I think they got away twice with my stuff. Fortunately, I never got robbed at gunpoint, which a lot of people I met had done.
Yeah.
And yeah, it can be really dangerous. A friend of mine was raped on the beach in Barbados at Machete Point, while her boyfriend was powerless to sort of help her, or risk getting his head chopped off if he tried. It does Yeah, you got to be on your toes out there, you know. As I say to everyone, never go on the beach, never go on the beach at night. So yeah, so you did your world travel. Well, any particular favorite country? I get asked this a lot.
I think, when I was actually traveling the world for them first 8 years, I spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Burma, sort of Malaysia, them sort of areas I really loved. It was cheap to travel. It was, people were friendly, it was amazing beaches, amazing sort of jungle areas, amazing mountains and things, and really accessible, really easy to get around. So I loved Southeast Asia, but yeah, Africa as well. There was the draw of the wildlife was incredible. Like, I spent a lot of time in Zambia, Namibia, Botswana, sort of sub-Saharan African regions, really. But yeah, I don't know. Every country's got, as you know, every country's got its own sort of unique sort of pull to it and draw to it that you. Yeah, I could say a load of countries that I like, and I don't think there's one particular area. I think I'm quite open-minded to sort of see that every country's got its unique sort of draw, if you know what I mean.
Have you been in Mozambique?
Yes, that's where I was kidnapped, in Mozambique. Yeah, a couple of years ago.
So, yeah, you were there. I reckon it's changed a lot since I was there then. I was there in 2000, so for the millennium.
Right.
I taught street children at a place called Nakala Porto, which is Nampula province. I think it's near Maputo, or I might be getting my geography wrong. But everything was just shot, riddled with bullet holes from the two war. First, they fought the War of Independence. Then they fought a massive civil war. Places riddled with landmines. It's a real shame. You see all the old colonial architecture, and I'm not defending colonialization. What's that word? Colonization. I'm not making a judgment on that, but I'm just saying the old Portuguese buildings were beautiful. The streets were all boulevards, so all tree lined. Yeah, incredible. But I'd be interested to go back there now to just see how much it's developed because it was ripe for tourism, except for the landmines. Obviously, you don't want to put your beach towel on one of them. But yeah, tell us about your kidnapping.
So it was when I was walking the Zambezi River, the length of the Zambezi. I had to go basically the last sort of third of the Zambezi goes through Mozambique, and I'd had several warnings about going to Mozambique about the two political parties that were still fighting, and there was a bit of a civil war happening, especially in the Zambezi region where I would be walking as well. So when I got into the country, I had some sort of help from some local sort of lodges and things, and they would guide me some of the way around Lake Horabasa. But as soon as I reached a part where I was on my own, I walked through a village, quite a really remote village. And what happens, obviously, in Africa, they call you in, you speak to the headman, the chief. They want to know why you're there, what you're doing, etc. And that process was happening, but they were speaking Portuguese, so I couldn't fully understand the whole conversation, what was going on. And they had someone translating a little bit for me. But there was about 300 people around me in the end of this sort of meeting. In the end, they didn't believe my story. I was grabbed by a load of guys, dragged along the floor. They were kicking me and whacking me. And next thing I know, I'm in a room, a mud hut in the middle of the village, locked in. And I was there for 3 days. The third morning, one of the guys that was being quite reasonable, I managed to talk to him a few times. He let me out the third morning to go to the toilet. And I had all my stuff with me, and I just went. I just continued out the village, and I didn't look back.
Bloody hell! So you escaped.
Yeah, I guess it's an escape, isn't it? But I think what it seemed like with him is he wanted me out of it. He didn't know what to do. No one really knew what to do with me, I don't think. And with him letting me out and me walking off, I think he looked like, what do I do? What do I do? But then I think he was also relieved that that problem was now solved, if you know what I mean. So I was gone. Hopefully that's what he thought.
When they were dragging you through the village, Chaz, you must have thought your number was up, didn't you?
Well, this meeting had gone on from like 4 in the evening till 11 at night, and I've been sat there, my bag and everything, just waiting for an answer if I can go through the village and if I could sleep in the village, etc., which I did, obviously, but so I didn't really know what was going on. There was a lot building up to it, and a lot of aggression. People getting quite aggressive and quite angry. And when I got dragged in the room, I really, part of me was just tired and frustrated. So I was happy to be in the room, but then also I didn't know what was going to happen. It was really difficult to know what was going to happen at that point.
You can see, can't you, why bloody travellers and tourists go missing in such places.
Yeah, definitely.
For our audience listening, you need to factor in here that superstition and witchcraft is massive. It's still as prevalent in Africa now as it ever has been in history, simply by the fact that development, and again, by development, it's whatever you interpret that as I'm sure Chaz has got an idea of what Western development means as well. But, when I worked in Africa, it was a village. Everyone lived in mud huts. They played the drums every night and danced around a fire, just like the Tarzan films that I saw when I was a child. And when a white man, in Mozambique they call it a kunya, when a white man comes into the village, it's like, is this guy bringing the diseases with him? Because they don't understand things like typhoid. So there's maybe a typhoid epidemic and there's people dying left, right and centre. They see a white person, so basically a ghost. It's like in their minds, you're bringing the disease into the village. Do we need to chop you up and, with our machetes and kill you? And it seems like you had a good guy there that bailed you out, Chaz.
Yeah, I mean, there was another guy that walked with me for a while in Mozambique. He's an ex-military guy, and he was walking, and he went off in a different direction, and we sort of split up eventually. And he said to me after that he'd been beaten as well. He was dragged along the ground by some villagers, beaten, and they tied him up in a village. And the police came, so he was lucky because they managed to get the police in. And the police said that they thought he was a vampire. They'd never seen anyone, and these sort of, like you say, witchcraft, and they see people like white guys walking through the village, and they're obviously very suspicious, and that they're really unsure what we are and why we're there. Really.
Yeah, my friends in my fellow workers in Africa got they had their pickup truck. They call it Shapper. Everyone travels on the back of pickup trucks as well, don't they? And they got pulled over, and the villagers were like, "What are you doing coming through our village? You're bringing the disease with you." And it was quite, you get apprehended by, 30 jet black men, Africans with machetes, and there's the language barrier and everything. It's a frightening position to be in. Did you see, Chaz, there was a documentary. It was a guy doing one of your kind of trips where he was walking some treacherous route. And at one point, he hooked up with another couple of guys. I don't know if it's like an Ed Stafford type of adventure. But anyway, at one point in the film, he just sits down and he does a piece to camera. And one of the guys had been a bit slow. He'd been lagging back a bit on this, what we call in the Marines a yomp, so a walk. And the presenter just sits down, does a bit to camera and says, right, John's just died. His body's over there. And the guy had just had a heart attack or whatever. And it was, I don't know. I just think for anyone that's been on expeditions, that kind of rings, you kind of, that's really relatable, that you know, it's you've got to be careful out there, haven't you?
Yeah, I think that was actually Leveson Wood when he was walking the Nile. He had a couple of journalists join him. One of them was Matt Power, and one of them was Jason Florio. Matt, they were both journalists, and Matt was one that died. He had heat stroke, and I think it came on within, you know, a couple of hours of the beginning of it to him actually dying. And I'm actually quite good friends with Jason. I even speak to Leveson as well. I'm quite good friends with Jason. He kayaked the Gambia River, and he helped me plan my trek along the Gambia River. So he was telling me about Matt, and, you know, one of his best friends is Matt, and how they joined Leveson, and they were only with him for like a week. And Matt, unfortunately, you know, passed away because of the heat. And yeah, I mean, I've been walking in these areas, and it's 50 degrees Celsius, and you start to feel ill, you know, and it's so dangerous. And, you know, yeah, it's really difficult sometimes.
Well, big respect to Matt, because it's like, I say this a lot, you know, better to die living your dreams than to, you know, you know, than to stay in a virtual prison at home. But that heat stroke is an interesting thing. I used to like running in Mozambique a lot, and one day I ran along the beach for about 5 miles. And it's so, as you know, it's a different kind of hot there. It's not quite as hot as when I was in sort of Pakistan and in the you know, the desert in Arabia, but it was so hot. I think I overheated my core, and it was only because I was running alongside the sea, which is quite warm in itself, that I kind of had my safety net to just go and run in the sea at the end. But this horrible, overwhelming heat comes over you, and you feel like you're boiling your body, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I one of the, you know, I said earlier about having nearly died a couple of times, and one of them was due to heat stroke. And when I was walking the Zambezi River, there was an area where basically after the Victoria Falls, it drops into a huge gorge. This gorge is about 150 miles, and it's really steep and rocky. And I was walking down there for a couple of weeks, and it was so slow going that I didn't really have enough food. So I tried to climb out of this gorge, and the hottest time of year was when I was walking. The only water was in the river. So when I climbed out of the gorge, I ended up trying to take a shortcut, because obviously I was going so slow in the gorge. I tried to take a shortcut. I ended up getting lost and sort of going up and down these little hills and really overgrown sort of land. I tried to get back down to the river. I was faced with a cliff, and I couldn't get back down. And by this point, I'd run out of water, and it was 50 degrees. And I ended up trying to find shade, trying to get helicopters to rescue me on my satellite phone. I couldn't get any of that. And I ended up drinking my own piss, you know, drinking my own urine. And I sat there, you know, contemplating, am I going to live? Am I going to die? And in the end, I was just drinking my urine. And I went back to this cliff. And that's the time I fell down a cliff as well. I sort of pretty much jumped and grabbed onto rocks and roots at the side of the cliff. And I pretty much thought to myself, I'm going to die. I may as well die just trying to get down this cliff instead of sat, you know, in my own sort of heat stroke phase. And I ended up getting back down to the river and jumping in the river and drinking about 5 liters of water in about 10 minutes. And but luckily I didn't die, but, you know, it was really, really scary stuff, really sort of overwhelmed. You know, that day was a massive wake up as far as expeditions and, you know, danger, really.
Hey, that should be on everyone's bucket list. Save your life by drinking your own urine.
Yeah.
Sod the bloody skydiving, the tandem skydiving. Drink your own urine, folks.
Yeah, it's good for you.
Were you not worried about getting giardia from drinking from the river? Or was that, I mean, obviously you had to save your life, but.
I was drinking from the river the whole time, really. And what I use is a water to go bottle, which is a filtered bottle, which, you know, you can filter out any harmful chemicals, bacteria, parasites in the water. And I was using that, but I think after that episode, because the Zambezi after the gorges, it's really fast flowing rapid. So luckily, you know, I think that area is quite safe to drink as far as drinking African river water. But yeah, I just didn't really, at that point, I didn't really care about anything except for getting water in my system. You know, I was drinking my own wee and stuff like that. And as soon as I got down to that river, I just needed to get that water in my body as quickly as possible. And I didn't really think about filtering or anything. I think I would just like drink, get it in. And I had to sit in the river and cool down for about an hour before I could really focus. And yeah, just thought about survival and trying to do it as quickly as possible, really.
I bet. So let's talk about some of the sort of practicalities. What distances? You've walked 2 rivers now, is that right?
3 rivers.
So Zambezi
River, the Gambia River, and Madagascar's longest, the Mangoki River.
Wow. It not trying to sound like Boy's Own or anything, but is that any kind of world record attempts or anything?
Well, the Gambia, I was the first person in history to walk the length of the Gambia River. There's no one else I know of in known history that's done that. And the Mangoki, the same. We were a team of people, the only people we know that have ever walked the length of the Mangoki. And the Zambezi, there's another guy, but the other guy, he didn't do all of it. I probably shouldn't say that, but there was sections he missed off, and he's labelled as being the first person, but I know I walked the whole river, so maybe I am the first person to walk that river, but yeah.
Wow. So I'm just going to write, so the Zambezi. Yeah.
The Gambia. And the Mangoki.
Mangoki. I want to Google that when I finish speaking to you.
Yeah, right. I mean, the Mangoki River's Madagascar's longest, but that expedition, me and the team walked across Madagascar as well from coast to coast. So it was like a 2-in-1 expedition, really, walking, east to west and following the longest river in the country, a world first.
And Zambezi is obviously is in
It's in 6 different countries. It's 2,000 miles long. It goes through Zambia, Angola,
wow.
Mozambique.
I'm just looking at my map up here.
Yeah.
Gosh, yes, I can see it's the river's on the map.
Big old river.
Yeah, I can see that one now. It goes down into Zimbabwe, is that right?
It sort of borders Zambia and Zimbabwe for quite a long time.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can see it. Into Mozambique, yeah.
Yeah, finishes in Mozambique.
So let's talk about some practicalities then, Chaz. What you're obviously staying out at night. So is that under canvas or bivy bag or?
A tent. I carry a tent with me on my expeditions. I'll carry because you need a tent really, obviously for mosquitoes and things like that, snakes, any scorpions, anything that might get into your tent. Anything into a bivvy, I like to be in a tent really, so I know I'm out of the way of anything like that. But a lot of countries I've been to, it hasn't always been safe to camp, and I've stayed in schools and villages and places, along the way where villagers have let me sleep in certain areas and things like that. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, if I'm walking, I've got all my camping equipment in my bag, and I'll camp out in the bush and live off the land as much as possible.
So let's talk through that equipment, because when I ran the length of Britain in 2018, I spent a fair bit of money trying to get the lightest weight kit that I could, because obviously I was having to carry everything. There's a lot of stuff out there. And I spent an awful lot on a very lightweight tent. I mean, it weighs something ridiculous, probably less than a kilo, maybe even 600 grams or something, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't without its problems, which is like all bits of kit. It's all kind of experimental, isn't it, really, when you're going into a theatre that you've never been in before. For example, could you lift the flaps up on both sides of your tent so that the air blows through?
Well, I've had different tents on different expeditions, and similar to yourself, it was a Terra Nova Zephyrus 1 Light or something like that, and that one, was it Zephyrus? Oh no, a laser photon, so it was about 600 grams, and that one just opened up on the one side, but it was a really small sort of compact tent. And that actually broke on the Gambia River walk, and I had mosquitoes coming in the tent. It was a horrible night. But then the last one I used in Madagascar, and probably what I'll continue to use now, is an MSR Hubba Hubba, which is opens on both sides, and it's freestanding, and you can sit up in it and things. It's a lot bigger. So
it might sound silly to people listening, but if you can't get the air to blow through at night, you're sleeping in an oven, and just having that breeze across you makes all the difference in your recuperation and your rest. So the old malaria is an interesting one. It got people in Mozambique that I work with really bad, but I noticed, not saying there's any science behind this, the people that seemed to be unfit and didn't look after their bodies seem to get it really bad, because it's rated on a star rating, isn't it? So bad malaria is 5-star. Malaria, just bit of a cold, so you got a few parasites in you, that's 1 star, right? Allegedly, I had the malaria, but I couldn't feel it. I had the test, and he said you got 1-star malaria, right? I never took any of the prophylactics, so the prevention medicine. And we had that larium, which can cause you mental health or psychological issues. In fact, there were people had to leave the Marines after going to the jungle because the larium, I think it gave them epilepsy. So I might be wrong. Sorry, larium, if you're watching, but it caused quite a serious problem. When I was in Mozambique, I just didn't take it. It can make you a bit depressed, and I felt a bit depressed when I was there, and I thought, right, I'm going to bin that medication. So I never took any for 6 months. I actually met a South African guy who was one of these old-timer South Africans. He'd done everything, the gold mining, the diamond prospecting, all this kind of thing. He was part of the woodwork. And he was like, his approach was, well, the whole continent in Africa can't take malaria medicine all the time. A, they can't afford it. B, imagine the effect it has on your body after a lifetime of taking that, right? He said, I don't take it, I just take the cure. And so that's what I did. I just took the cure, i.e. the prophylactic, which is supposed to prevent it, is also the cure. But then again, cerebral malaria is different from body malaria, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure of the differences. Obviously, the ones maybe for the body and the brain, isn't it? But I've always taken doxycycline, which is an anti-malarial. Obviously, it makes you sensitive to the sunlight, but I've always been okay with that. But similar to yourself, with I think Malarone and things like that, it always sends me a bit depressed and affects my mind a little bit, so I don't take them. And I met a lot of people that do just take the cure instead of the preventatives, but I think I've always just been, because I know I'm in an area where I can't always get help, and I'm always really keen to get as many preventative methods as possible, you know, like the clothing I wear, the sort of medication, the sort of also take some kind of cure and whatnot.
The thing was for us, Chaz, all the people that got the malaria, they were all taking the preventative stuff, and those of us the 2 of us that didn't take it, you know, I'm not making any sort of suggestions here. Do your own research, but like I say, I didn't take it, and I don't think I got malaria, but they did say I had 1 star. It really did knock some of the people for 6 though.
Yeah, but yeah.
What cooker are you using then?
On my expeditions, the river walks, I've taken just a trangia pot and cook on fires, just because there's no way of getting fuel, there's no way of really carrying too much. So I'll take a little trangia pot with a handle, and I'll just make a fire at night, and I'll cook on the fire. That's pretty much all I do, really.
Nice.
Yeah, in the UK, I'll have the jet boil and things. But
is that like your 3 pots, your 3 pans with your gripper handle?
Yeah, I mean, you get like a set, don't you? But I just take 1 pot, one sort of smallish pot, which is enough to, put rice or pasta and things in it, and I'll cook over the fire and then just wash that. And that's also my bowl, my, everything. That's just what I use, one bowl, and that serves all purposes I need, really. Even if I can't get, to the river and have a wash, I can sometimes fill that and just wash my face and things, and it's got multi-use to it, and it's light, really light, and sort of titanium pots, I think they're made of. And, yeah, pretty good.
And do you use any sort of sleeping bag, or just a sort of sleeping bag liner?
Depends on, sometimes obviously in different countries it can get quite cool at night in the bush in Africa and the Zambezi, the sub-Saharan regions. They do have a bit of a winter where it gets cold at night, so I'll take like a free season sleeping bag for the most part, which compacts down quite small. And but if I'm going to a country I know it's going to be there summer, it's going to be hot, I'll just take a 2-season sleeping bag, or even a sleeping bag liner sometimes, just to cover yourself and get a bit of comfort at night, really.
Yeah, I got a Mammoth 3-season, and it's folds down to about that big. It weighs something silly like about 400 grams. Or
yeah.
I think Mammoth bought out a Junge. Have you heard of a Jungelak?
No.
Oh, a Jungelak was a wicked. I think it's a Norwegian brand. Might be Swedish, but I think it was Norwegian. And those guys up there, they know how to make kit.
Yeah, they're living in them environments, aren't they? So.
Yeah, they do. They used to not. They're used to not doing things sort of half-heartedly. There, it's if they're going to make a car, they make a really good car. If they make equipment, it's the same. Machete? Do you travel with a machete?
No. I think obviously it's difficult to take them on a plane and things like that. And I've never really used one, to be honest. The areas I walk in, they can be overgrown, but for the most part, I'll either walk around them overgrown parts, or I'll find a sort of path the villagers would use. And I think 90% of the time I don't really think I need one, but there is always times where if you're walking through quite overgrown areas that it would come in handy. But yeah,
I spent quite a bit of time in the jungle, and also, like I say, the dangers in South America. Me personally, I always want to have a machete on me, but I just stick it in my luggage. That's
okay.
Yeah, that's fine. They don't, anything in your big bag is fine. It's only your handbags, your hand luggage. You can't take sharp objects. Really, but again, in the jungle, you want to obviously have a machete. They always say if there's one bit of equipment you want for survival, it's a machete. Everything else you can, fashion from the machete. So, any particular kind of backpack you have, or is?
I mainly use low alpine sort of air zone bags, like a 35 litre, 40 litre. I don't use more than 40 litre really. It gets, obviously the more you spend, the more small the equipment's going to be, lighter it's going to be. And I do spend quite a lot on my expedition gear because I want to be walking comfortably, and I want to make sure, I can do the walk and be comfortable really. So I do spend quite a lot of money on equipment, and low alpine bags. I've got the Air Zone backpack, and they're normally pretty good. They're big enough to put everything you need into it as well.
I've done nearly all of my traveling with a low alpine rucksack.
Yeah.
When I ran the 1,000 miles, I bought a second-hand one on eBay, identical, and I just chopped it all down. I chopped all the stuff off it that I didn't need. Even, you can get 2 rods that run down the back to stiffen your backpack. I put those on my my bandsaw in the garage, and I just sawed one in half, and I just used a thin bit either side just to, again, up half the weight of that. Yeah, good bags they are. They got a really nice high. The shoulders are quite a way above the waist belt, so you can get a nice comfy balance between your hips and your thing, which for load carrying is incredibly important.
They are comfortable, yeah. I think the longer you obviously do expeditions, that you try different bags, different kit, and when you find something that really works for you, I guess it's what you need to stick with. And the low alpine air zone bags I've always used, especially for the last 3 expeditions, that I know they're going to be reliable. I know they're not going to give me any problems, and I know it's going to fit everything I need to. So yeah, they're good.
I'm dying to ask you, footwear.
Footwear, similar to sort of the bag, as far as getting experience of using different footwear and giving you problems, etc. And the Merrells I've used. I think the last expedition I did, walking across Madagascar, I had Merrell Chameleons, I think they were called. They were like the waterproof version of the Merrell Mobes, is it? Yeah, Merrell Mobes, like the breathable walking shoes. I think in Africa you only need a walking shoe really, because you're going to be bushland most of the time. And I used Merrell Mobes, which aren't waterproof, but they're really breathable and they were really comfortable. I used them on the Zambezi and the Gambia, and I used Merrell Chameleons on the Madagascar trek. And I think there was me and a friend walking the Gambia River, and he had loads of foot problems. I can't remember what he was using. I didn't have any. And the Madagascar trek, the same. I was the only person that didn't have any foot problems, and that was from using the Merrell shoes I had.
I've done a lot of my stuff, my traveling, and with just Teva sandals in the hot countries. Right. The only problem I ran into with them is I got that. What's that little mite called that burrows into your skin? It's really painful, and it.
Yeah.
Do you know the one I mean?
I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, Ed Stafford had one in his head, didn't he? I can't remember what the.
No, that's a bot fly, right?
Oh, right. Okay.
That's the fly. It lays an egg in a cut on your head, and that develops into a huge maggot. And it has spikes on it like that. So when you try and pull it out, the spikes sticking into your skin. And there's a certain way to get them out. I think you cover them with Vaseline, and because they can't breathe, they then have to come to the surface. But they're not nice. No, there's one. The name of it slips my mind. You can chigger. Chigger. Yeah, a chigger is the size of a piece of dust. It's that small.
Right.
And it bites into your skin, and then you develop a little blister underneath it. But the chigger stays there in a little black spot. And within no time at all, it's this intense, horrible pain. And you've got to get a knife and you've got to cut them right out. I don't know exactly. Yeah, you've just got to cut them out. And if anyone watching, if you go on YouTube and look up chiggers, there's actual footage on there of doctors that have gone to villages in Africa where the people are just infested with them. Like their whole skin is, wow, it looks like you've got some like smallpox or something. It's that the skin becomes so bad, and the doctors painstakingly cut these things out one by one with a scalpel, and we're talking thousands, sometimes thousands of the things.
No.
But yeah, I got those in Central America. I think it was in Guatemala, I think it was. Yeah. That was one time I wish I probably had trekking shoes on or something.
I'll have to look into that. Yeah, never heard of them.
Yeah, they're not recommended, you know. So yeah, and what else? Practicalities. What is there any kit that is vitally important to you?
I take a satellite phone. I think most of the time I'm pretty much in the middle of nowhere on my own as well. So I don't have any kind of support vehicles, any kind of support team, and having a satellite phone is something that obviously can save my skin if I need to. Yeah.
Have you heard of Satcase?
No. I use an InReach, Garmin InReach. She's just a messenger, but it's quite cheap and light, and it's quite reliable. So.
Okay, I'm going to write that down and have a look at that. Yeah, my friend Baz Gray, a former Royal Marines Sergeant Major, he skied to the South Pole last year, and he's an ambassador, I suppose you'd say, for a company called Satcase. Okay. And it's it's a black case. You open it, put your mobile phone in, close it, and then it becomes a satellite phone.
Very good.
Yeah, I don't know which of the kind of internet functions you can use, if any. But I believe you can. But yeah, it's just your phone functions as a sat phone then. So Sat Case, if you're watching and you're looking to sponsor a podcast, I'm your man.
Yeah, I love one as well.
Yeah, they're good. 2,000 miles. What sort of mileage are you doing a day?
On the Zambezi, I think I averaged 20 miles a day. No, maybe not that much. Yeah, I mean, some days I walked 30 miles, some days I walked 10 miles, sometimes I walked 2 miles, depending on the terrain, really. And depending on the terrain. And sorry, my Zoom was playing up. Yeah, it's depending on the terrain, really. And if I'm walking like in the gorges, for example, I was walking on really sort of bouldery areas, and then I was walking in swamps sometimes, and then I was walking through. Sometimes there'd be dirt tracks which I could do, 30 mile a day on, and it just depends really. I think average probably about 20 mile a day, maybe, or a bit less.
How much does your kit come to in total weight then?
I think I try and keep it around 10 to 12 kilograms, ideally, if I'm doing a long journey and I know I want to be comfortable. Yeah. 10 to 12 kilograms, really.
Yeah, that's manageable. Yeah. And what kind of navigation?
In Africa, along the rivers, for the most part, I'm following the river, so I've got a sort of natural navigational path, but I'll carry a road map, which doesn't really give me much detail, but it gives me a rough idea of, distances between each town and things like that. And I'll rely on local people. And also my mobile phone, I'll have maybe a couple of apps like Guru Maps and different mapping apps on my phone, which I'll use if I want more finer detail about where I am exactly. But a lot of time it's just following the river, relying on local knowledge, and using the paper map. So I've got a point to aim at, if you know what I mean. Maybe this town is where I want to be in 3 days, and I say to the villagers, which way am I going to go to get to this town? And following the river, you're always going to get quite a clear path as far as where you need to be and stuff like that as well.
And Chaz, what's how do you feel being out there on your? I mean, bloody hell, you're in a not necessarily always a risky situation, but like you said, there's no one's going to come running to help you if you need it.
Yeah.
How does that balance against the kind of feeling of being at one with nature and living your dream? And I'm guessing you like your own company, obviously.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a mixture of feelings, as far as sometimes I know I'm in an area where it's really dangerous. Maybe there's a lot of wildlife in the area, or there's potential. Like you were saying before, there's a lot of areas I walked through where I knew there was a lot of witchcraft practice in that area. I knew there was potential danger from people, and sometimes I'd be walking on the edges of national parks and I'd see elephants. There'd be lions, there'd be buffaloes, and I knew that I'm on my own. If anything happens, I'm in a lot of trouble, really. And them points, and when I'm going through them sort of areas, I'm always on edge a little bit. But then when I'm just walking in a sort of normal environment, I'm quite happy and content just being on my own and just walking. And but it's a mixture. You have to, doing an expedition to that caliber, you have to really put yourself in the right mindset to handle anything that's thrown at you. And on the Zambezi River, that was just had to be the case all the time. I was either getting problems with people, animals, the environment, the heat, the terrain. There was always something I had to sort of really be strong-minded for to get through in that time, really.
Are you doing research with fellow explorers? So from the Geographical Society, are there other guys? I mean, there are obviously other people that have walked rivers, because we've seen it on television, haven't we? Or we've seen documentaries.
Yeah. I mean, I try and use multiple sources of research. You know, I'll first of all, I'll probably research, has anyone done this walk before? Is there any information they've got online that I can use and gather information? I think I managed to talk to Leverson Wood, who'd walked the Nile, about his adventure, and he gave me a lot of information and advice on walking African rivers, and obviously planning the Zambezi, quite a similar trek really, but on a smaller scale. But he gave me a lot of advice, and I spoke to other people that had walked. I spoke to David Lemon, who walked the Zambezi before, and got information from him about his experience. And I spoke to people that had kayaked the river. I spoke to several, but I also read, you know, information on the river and the different towns, the different cultures. There's different sort of potential problems I might encounter, and I did a lot. I think it took about 2 years to research the Zambezi and to actually get myself doing it, if you know what I mean.
Wow. Because I mean, the kayak in the rivers, that's inherent with danger in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a completely different sort of thing to walk in the river, but they've obviously going through the same places. And I'm quite jealous sometimes when I see people on a boat, they're just storming past, and then there's me walking through the swamps on the outskirts of the river. And you know, there is definitely swings and roundabouts with these different modes of transport, really.
Yeah, a friend of mine and I were cycling through the Baltic, so Estonia, Latvia, what else are we talking up there? Lithuania, isn't it? And we stopped in the forest for a few nights, and we built a raft, a proper big. Well, it had to be a big raft because it needed 2 adults on it, and both our bicycles and our ruck, you know, all our panniers and equipment. And we sailed down the river for 3 days living on this raft. Absolutely brilliant. Every now and again, a kayaker would just come flying past us, living the high life. Yeah, that was fun. So I guess the question on everybody's mind is, what wildlife have you seen, and how come you haven't been eaten?
I've been quite lucky, I guess. I've been charged by elephants before. I've had lions sleeping outside my tent. On the actual Gambia River trek, one of the main reasons why no one's ever walked it is in the middle of Senegal. There's a huge lion park which we had to walk through, which is, you know, the Gambia River goes straight through it, and we had to get guides permits to walk through that area. And there was lions everywhere, and these guides obviously were sort of leading the way, and that was really sort of dangerous and risky. But Zambezi, I had lion prints outside my tent, and they were there. You know, they were there all the while. And there was one episode where I was walking along a track on the edge of a national park, and I could see elephant dung and tracks everywhere. And to the left of me, I heard all this crashing of trees just collapsing to the side of me, and a big bull elephant was storming towards me, obviously coming towards me quite a fast pace. And luckily, to my right hand side, there was a bit of a dip in the land, so I jumped down there and climbed at the other side. And luckily, the elephant didn't go beyond that point and was just sort of looking at me, and I was backing off, sort of thing. But really close encounters of snakes, you know, numerous amounts of snakes, and
how many
black mambas.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many black mambas have you seen?
Well, I've seen one that I know was a black mamba. That was when I was walking through a really overgrown forested area, and I was sort of following a small little trail, and as I was sort of going amongst the trees, I heard all this rustling to the side of me, and this snake sort of stood up next to me, and it was a black mamba. And luckily, this snake just bolted off the other direction, and my heart was in my mouth, sort of thing. And obviously, if I'd have been bitten, I'd have probably been dead within however many minutes or how long it takes. But yeah, really sort of close encounters, really.
They rear up like cobras, don't they? And they can really go very fast. I saw two in Mozambique. One of them just come right past where I was sitting in outside our accommodation. It just went right past in front. Another one, I was walking down the track. It came out into the middle of the track, and it put its head right up about a foot and a half, looked around, and then it seemed to like move like the Loch Ness monster across the path.
Yeah.
One night, my friend came running into our room. I shared my room with a Hungarian chap, Zsolt. Zsolt come running in. Chris, come quick! We went outside. We took we use candlelight a lot because obviously electricity goes off, and there's not a lot of it in Africa anyway, but or in certain parts of Africa, I should say. I think we took a candle outside, and there's a puff adder right outside our door. The reason they're so dangerous is they don't get out the way. They just stay there, and many Africans stand on them, don't they, and lose a leg.
Yeah, they're really camouflaged, and they'll just sit there and tracks and things.
Yeah, gosh. So, and the bull elephant, you say it ever so calmly, but that must have been, that's frightening.
Yeah. That was it was a big moment, really, because I've been walking and I've been over 3 months of trekking along the Zambezi at that point. I was really exhausted. I lost a lot of weight, and I was walking towards the gates of the national park, the Lower Zambezi National Park, and when it happened, I wasn't far away from actually reaching a place I was trying to get to, and my heart was in my mouth and my legs were like jelly, and I just felt so exhausted and just I didn't know, I was just like, what the hell? It's just, but I'm trying to walk the Zambezi River here, and I know that anything that happens I can't really sort of get frustrated with, because I know that it's a dangerous thing to try and do, but yeah, I think I put myself in that mode where I don't get too sort of worked up, and I don't get really too scared, or even though I know it's a really dangerous thing that just happened, I'll sort of play it down a little bit in my mind, because I know that it was my own decision, and I didn't really get injured by it. And I love animals. One of the reasons I walk these rivers is to raise awareness for wildlife and things like that. And I always like to think there's some kind of moment between me and that animal at that time. And he's a huge creature, and he didn't attack me, and he didn't go any further. And I had to respect the elephant for not doing that. And in my mind, I sort of don't play it as being a really scary thing, because, part of me is like, nothing happened, but it could have happened, and it's a good story. It's obviously saying now that these animals aren't, they're wild and they are dangerous, and the fact that he did stop and respect that he wasn't going to kill me, I was thankful for.
And it's that bit of a cliche, isn't it? But the most dangerous animal is the mosquito, and that's the one that people just generally don't tend to be afraid of. And what about our friend the crocodile? Have you seen many of those on your river trips?
Yeah, a lot of crocodiles. Walking along Lake Corabassa in Mozambique, there's not as many people there, so the crocodiles would come and rest on the shore quite often. And every time I turned the corner, there'd be a huge crocodile on the banks. And every time I reached the river, I had to drink from the river, so I'd have to always approach cautiously. And I've seen a lot of crocodiles, but they've always just kept themselves to themselves. And when we were walking across Madagascar, we had to walk through a lot of rivers every day. We walked to our neck in river water, wading through rivers, and there was a lot of crocodiles in Madagascar as well. And that was something that was really sort of overwhelming, that we had to do that, and potential risk of crocodiles obviously eating us and stuff. But
wow,
during that whole expedition, we only saw one crocodile, and luckily it wasn't when we were walking to the river.
I'll tell you a funny thing, Chaz. When I worked in Mozambique, the nearest town was called Nacala, and that was it was about, I don't know, let's just say 5 miles, so about 8 kilometers from the village where I worked. and in, like I say, it's all in its heyday would have been colonial splendor, and now it's all gone to rack and ruin, obviously through all the war, the non-stop war. Well, in the middle of that town, in the town centre, there's a caged area. Can't really describe. Might be bars actually, and it looks like some colonial. It looked like the colonists built it back in the heyday, is what I'm trying to say. And when you go up to the bars and look in, there's a crocodile in the middle of the town, and this brute, if I can call it that, is about 12, 15 feet long. Huge. Just like the ones you see in the old Tarzan films, right? And I guess what it is back in the day, it was kind of a feature for the, Portuguese had caught it in a river somewhere and put it in there as a feature in the middle of the town. And of course, it's been there ever since. And I guess they live to a ripe old age.
Poor thing, eh?
And yeah, and I mean, it was a poor thing. It was horrible. It's one of those situations where the crocodile rescue man needs to go and get that thing out there and give it some dignity, because the locals would just get dogs and throw them over and, feed it stray dogs and stuff. And it was full of like, it's, I guess it was a swimming pool back in the day for this thing, right? It's all just now full up with litter and dead dog carcasses and stuff. It was pretty vile, really. Do you drink any alcohol when you're doing your travels? Do you have a hip flask, or is it something you can leave behind?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really drink very often anyway, just in general, but I think if I finish an expedition, I'll sometimes have like a couple of beers at the end. But yeah, I think when I'm on the expedition, I'm very focused on what's going on and the actual expedition itself. And I'm probably a little bit boring in some people's eyes, as far as, I'll just do the expedition. I'll happily just do it in a natural manner. And there's not really many opportunities to get alcohol as well. Some of the areas I've walked, and the local villagers would drink whatever juice they can concoct, in their houses and things. And
palm beer and palm wine and palm whiskey.
Yeah, so I don't, when I'm back home, I'll have a few drinks and things, but yeah, on expedition, I tend not to really.
And I wanted to talk about food, because if you're coming from villages to villages, I'm guessing there's not too many shops around. I know they have little is it tiendas they call them, like little stalls outside?
Yeah, they have sometimes little shops, little stalls, and I'll carry what I need. Basically, I'll carry like spaghetti, rice, oats, like powdered, sort of really sort of dry goods, and then whatever I find in the villages, maybe some vegetables or some fish and things like that. I mix that with whatever food I've got. But to be honest, most of the time, if I'm passing through villages, there is some kind of where the villagers will feed you, and they have fed me. I never expected them to, I never really relied on villagers to feed me. But, some of the cultures along African rivers is you're seen as a guest, and they will look after you, they'll feed you and welcome you in. And I'll always leave a bit of money for them, because obviously they're giving me what they've got, and they've not got much themselves. So, yeah, for the most part, the villagers would feed me, but I'd have food in my bag if I needed it as well. Yeah, but there is little shops that sell basics.
The thing is, though, and you must have experienced this so much, the hospitality in these parts for people that have nothing. I mean, they live in absolute abject poverty. The kids' toys in Mozambique was rubbish. Their footballs were made out of shopping bags wrapped around each other like hundreds of times. That's their football. If they got if you had a bottle of water, you get 3 kids watching you because they want that bottle. It's a commodity, right? So when you're there and they come out, they bring you into their hut, they give you their bed, which is, sometimes quite an interesting arrangement. And of course, they go and get their chicken, or their best chicken, which is, that's like us going and getting one of our cars or our motorbike and giving it to a complete. I mean, it's a big, valuable, very valuable part of their life, and they willingly will sacrifice. Not sacrifice. The chicken gets its neck snapped basically, and they cook it up for you, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, that's always one of the things I speak about a lot, is when people speak about going through the villages and how much hospitality you receive. But there is a huge contrast. I went from villages where I'd just be overwhelmed by the way I was treated, and there'd always be an element of shock, especially if they'd never seen a white person in their village. They'd be shocked and sort of overwhelmed, and eventually that would calm down. It'd be excitement and joy that they've got a visitor in the village. But then sometimes, like I say about Mozambique and places, that I was just seen as someone that they didn't want in the village, and danger and sort of a witch, or some kind of demon in the village. And different, it was always depend. Every time I reached the village, I'd be going through my head, how are they going to receive me? Is it going to be safe? Is it going to be are they going to be welcoming? Are they going to be scared? Are they going to be? But yeah, I mean, they've got nothing. I think one of the things that frustrates me about the UK, or a lot of the world, is that how much we think we need, and how greedy we can be, as human beings. And you go over there and they've just made like you say, a little football, and that's it. All the kids are entertained. And if for example, you gave them a sweet or a biscuit, they're going to share it around every single child in that area. In the UK, they quite happily just shove it in their mouth and not mention it. It's just.
Perhaps I could make a point there, and it's about Islam. And I've seen some, there's obviously good and bad in every kind of facet of life.
Yeah.
But because Islam comes predominantly from a desert-dwelling population, a lot of it is based on selflessness, which goes back to the days where if you're traveling the desert, there's not a lot of resources available. So when you saw a stranger, you'd welcome them into your home, and you'd give them you'd feed them. And the theory is, when you then pass through another stranger's territory, they're going to look after you. It's a really nice thing.
Yeah.
And another aspect of Islam, or being a Muslim, is you don't play with food. And I really love that. I teach my son that. You'll see a lot of Western television programs where they're physically wasting food just to get a cheap laugh, a cheap 2-minute laugh on a television set. I mean, I don't mean chucking a pie in someone's face, but this kind of this just immense ignorant waste, not realizing that there's children where you and I have been that are starving to death, that would give anything for that waste. The throwing the stuff in the fridge away. I mean, it's get a life, folks. Smell it. If it smells okay, you can eat it. Don't go by the sell by date. If it smells okay, you're gonna be fine. Not chicken, obviously, and fish and things you got to be careful with. Hence why shellfish is part of Islamic culture, isn't it? You don't eat shellfish, I think, and that comes from the days where if you tried to take it into the desert, it would really get poisonous very quickly. But yeah, it's that kind of thing where you travel around the world and you bring some really nice philosophies home with you.
Yeah, it does open your mind. I think travel in general, it's just anyone that travels, even if you go away for a few weeks, it broadens your mind. The more you travel, the more sort of open you are to different cultures, beliefs, ways of life. And to be honest, the negative side of it is the more you come back, the more you see that people aren't open-minded and can be a bit selfish and self-centered, and we haven't got the cultures that we probably did have at one point, and they've died out. And these places you've just been to, and you've seen how welcoming they are and how humble and kind they can be, and coming back to sort of, you know, not even saying hello to you on a bus or something. You know, it's quite demoralizing sometimes. But
not just a bus, mate. In England, your bloody neighbour doesn't even, you know, your neighbour doesn't. It's not just they don't say hello to you; is they try and avoid you coming out the house. This is how corrupt our minds have become by our culture, and it's undoubtedly, this is the thing, travel broadens the mind. It can narrow your mind in some ways, but you go to these cultures that have nothing, and they have the biggest sense of community, they have the biggest sense of looking after their family. If a child's parents die, it's got extended family. It doesn't have to go through some foster or adoption thing that's put in children's home and gets its brain screwed up for life. That woman there is his auntie. That woman, if you go in a village in Africa with one of the children, you say, "Who's that?" "Oh, that's my auntie." "Oh, okay." So, and the next one, "Oh, who's that?" "Oh, that's my auntie." "All right." "Oh, this one, that's my auntie." So you got a lot of aunties. No, what it is every woman in the village, it has a duty to look after that child, and it's beautiful, beautiful part of culture, you know. And take our way of life, all these gizmos and gadgets that just corrupt the mind and destroy young people's futures and their thinking and their visions and their, you know, stifles their achievement by just corrupting their dreams. You can see where we're going wrong, can't you?
Oh yeah. It's I mean, I can talk a lot about this sort of stuff as far as I like to try and stay positive, but I think when you sort of see how greedy we are and how, you know, brainwashed, I think as well, as far as people thinking they need more than they actually do, and then the more you have, the more you want, the more you sort of protect what you've got, the more I think me living a van life and just a simple life is my way of sort of rebelling against having too much and not needing too much, if you know what I mean. Just, I'm happy as long as I've got the things I need and the simple life I want to live, then I don't think I'll ever really want to change that. And I think you see people all around that have just got more and they want more, and even just like maybe, you know, little things like the sofa's a couple of years old, they want the new range. It's fine, you know. It's just, you know, no, I want this. You know, no.
Well, the other thing, Chaz, that you must appreciate that I certainly do. I've travelled the world. And if you were to work my budget out, I spend less than $2.50 a day, so about what, £1.75. I've done skydiving, still within that budget. Advanced scuba diving courses. I've been to every single country I wanted to go to, every single one. And like I say, it's that cheap, but you still need that money to go traveling. And if people could understand how much happiness and fulfillment living your dreams brings you, as opposed to buying stuff, which is a very short-lived high, you know, 6 months after buying a new car, it's not new anymore. The next model's already, you start, you know, or a year later or two, where you start to see the newer model on the road. It's very, and I just would encourage anyone listening to save your money and spend it on your dreams. Don't be tempted into taking out the car loan that you're going to pay 495 quid a month for the next, you know, 10 years or something. Just use it for your dreams, for your hobbies, your adventures, your traveling. What's it like when you've done this trip? It's 2,000 miles, say, and you see the ocean. I'm guessing this is a scenario you must have seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a strange day. I think, you know, obviously towards the end of an expedition, you're craving to see the ocean, you're craving to sort of get to the end destination, and then when you see it, there's a mixture of, wow, you know, obviously I've reached it and I've completed this journey, but then also what now? You know, like you sort of stop and you think, all I was saying about when you leave everything back home, it's gone, and you get a bit of a realization when you've reached the ocean, but now you're going back to the stuff that you hadn't have to worry about for the past whatever months. And I don't know, it's a weird feeling. It's really hard to describe, to be honest, that you're on a high and a bit of a low at the same time, and mix of emotions, and you want to go and relax, but you also want to take the moment in. And it's not always an easy thing to do, get to the ocean, because on the Zambezi I got logged. It was mangroves, and then as soon as I got to the end, I was getting, the tide was coming in, I was getting trapped on the beach, and then I was like trying to wave fishermen down. It's not always the romantic ending you think of. And the Gambia and the Madagascar trip was a bit different. We finished on nice coastal areas. And
I'm guessing, Chaz, there's bull sharks in that area as well, aren't there?
There can be bull sharks in the Zambezi as they go up from the Indian Ocean, up to the river, that first stretch of the river really by the mouth. But I don't know. I had to wade through some water when I was getting trapped in, and I think there's always a risk of coming across these things,
And have you done anything in the sort of Scandinavia or the Alpine region, any sort of cold weather stuff?
I did an expedition where I walked and hitchhiked to the northernmost point of Europe, which is Nordkap. So basically from the UK, I had a £100 budget. I got a £9.99 flight to Oslo, and I walked and hitchhiked to the northernmost point to film and admire the northern lights. Up a few years ago now, it was -40 or something, coldest we had. And I've done a few cold type environments, but nothing I'd consider too extreme. I think in some people's minds that was pretty extreme. But
did you say you walked to the north?
Yeah, walked and hitchhiked. So the aim was to just do it cheap. So we didn't really have any money to do much. So
what time of year did you? I spent many years in Norway, so I'm fascinated. What time was it? Summer or winter?
January. So it was winter.
Ooh, that's
January.
cold to be hitchhiking in January, mate.
It was cold, yeah, really cold.
And did you get on skis at all?
No, I just walked. Well, it was roads, tracks. When we got to the north point, we had to walk the last 70 kilometers through snow-drifted roads. The roads were closed, and it was quite tricky. But we didn't have. We just normal walking boots.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that because I ran the length of the UK. I'm going to cycle the length of America, or mountain bike the length of America next year.
Right.
That's the plan anyway. And then I'm thinking to do the sort of triumvirate, the can't think of the word, but the golden trio. I might ski the length of Scandinavia.
Cool. Be good.
Yeah. Well, you got to, you're only as young as you decide to make your life, if you ask me. It's
life full of adventure.
Yes. And can you explain what is bushcraft?
Bushcraft, well, basically it's living off the land, isn't it? Living off, surviving off what you've got in your environment. So the bushcraft I teach is normally forest-based, and building shelters, making fires, foraging for food, making traps. Just sort of getting water, obtaining water and things like that. And basically just living off your surroundings. And like you were saying before, about more of a natural way that ancestors used to live. And
is it fair to say as well, it's rekindling a lot of very important skills that we've lost, due to technology, skills?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've obviously nowadays most people are sat at home on the computers and sort of out of touch with the actual real natural world, and it's going basically just chucking yourself into the natural world and living the way that people would have done, in the forests a couple of 100 years ago, whenever it was.
Yeah, and obviously, I guess we're talking Ray. Got to give Ray Mears a mention.
Yeah, I think Ray Mears, and then they've highlighted it, haven't they, and made it more popular nowadays.
Yeah, I do like, when I first saw Ray Mears on television, I thought, bloody hell, I can just watch this. I could just watch episode after episode. It was, he's done some great TV work.
Wealth of knowledge, doesn't he?
Mm. Yeah. He wanted to join the Royal Marines, funny enough.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a medical reason he couldn't join or what it was. You do meet a lot of people that say my mummy wouldn't let me. I don't think that's you, Ray. Sorry. I'm not going to slag Ray off because I want him to come on the podcast.
All right.
But, yeah, and I made my first bushcraft blade last year, I think it was. Might have been a bit before that. Because that's something that when you understand the sort of what can we say, the idea behind a proper bushcraft knife, like cultures of Inuit sort of cultures, indigenous cultures have used for many years.
Yeah.
And the importance of having a sharp knife, isn't it?
Yeah, it's important to be able to do everything you need to do, whittling your wood and things, and cutting your whatever you need to cut, really. Yeah.
And can you make fire by friction?
I can do like a hand drill and a bow drill, but it's something I don't do very often. So I wouldn't say I was amazing at it, but I can do it.
It's surprisingly hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, it is difficult.
I've never managed to do it simply because I've always picked the wood myself in a forest, and I'm probably picking the wrong material. You can buy it, I think, online. You can buy fire start, bushcraft fire starting kits, right, where they've already chosen the right wood for your drill and your base plate and stuff. And in what capacity then are you leading expeditions, Chaz, and doing bushcraft?
So I haven't done much bushcraft for a while, but I normally in a forest environment, I get a big group of people and we build shelters, we make fires, etc. School groups as well, like large school groups. Expeditions. I work for an expedition company called Outlook. I take students every year on expeditions, mainly in African regions, doing like a project in the country, doing a trek in the country, and doing activities like normally sort of wildlife based, sort of safaris and things like that. And also my own expeditions. Like I say, the Madagascar trip was an expedition I put together with a team, and I led that team across Madagascar along the Mangoki River, and just wherever really.
How was it being in a team as opposed to being solo? Because that's a lot more implications, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I found it more difficult being in a team because you've got to look after everyone else, not just yourself. And any kind of problems that happen, it's not just you that has to deal with them. You've got all these people around you that might be suffering or mentally finding it difficult, and then you've got to then be mentally strong to deal with what they're dealing with, as well as what's just happened yourself. But I think I can manage teams well, and hopefully I can try and bring them out of any kind of problematic state of mind. But it does add an extra sort of element to the difficult part of the expedition and getting through them difficult areas.
Were any of the people on your team novices? Were they kind of new to the outdoors environment?
I guess, I mean, the two, I had a guy and two girls on the team. The two girls were probably a bit more novice. They hadn't done much extreme expedition stuff, and I think there was definitely moments when we were walking through rivers, for example, where you could see they were scared, and it was quite difficult for them to get their minds around that. And just being away from sort of civilization for such a long time is a really, really difficult thing if you've never done it. If people haven't done it before, and you like the thought of it, but sometimes the reality of it's not always straightforward, and you do miss home comforts, and especially when you're going through difficult times, you can't choose what you want to eat. You can't sort of relax where you want to relax, and it's difficult, really.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? That not funny. I'm it's interesting that some people, they just don't like sleeping in a tent.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some people, I think they just, I, I don't know if it's just a case of experience as far as if they've ever been camping, maybe they've had a miserable time in the rain or whatever, and maybe not the right equipment or something like that. And I think sometimes people's experiences when they were younger might affect what they want to do when they're older and things. But yeah, I can never understand why people wouldn't enjoy just being out in the tent. And I love it, but yeah.
I've got a tent up in a garden at the minute, and I'm going to sleep in it every night this summer. So, yeah. So, Chaz, listen, will you come back on the podcast, and when you're about to set off on your next adventure, and tell us all about it?
Yeah, I definitely will. Yeah, I'll have to. Well, at the moment, it's difficult to know when we're allowed to travel, but as soon as I'm sort of setting off, I'll let you know. And
do you have any idea what it's going to be?
Well, the aim was to try and walk the length of the Orange River, which is in southern Africa. It's a 1,400-mile river. Runs through pretty much the whole width of, pretty much 3/4 of the width of South Africa. Starts in Namibia, finishes in Lesotho. But yeah, it's 1,400 miles, Orange River. It's a planned walk from sea to source along that river.
Wow, that sounds like an amazing trip. Does it go through the Kruger National Park?
I don't think it doesn't go through any national parks. I don't think so. In sort of, you know, if in my mind, as far as what I've been through before, it seems relatively straightforward as far as not having too many issues with national parks and places I wouldn't be able to walk. So I think it's relatively trouble-free as far as wildlife, things like that.
Brilliant. Well, I won't wish you the best of luck now. I'll do it when you come on a podcast and tell us all when you've got all your planning down, and that'll be interesting to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
No worries. So I'm going to say goodbye. So to everyone at home, thank you ever so much for watching the Bought the T-Shirt podcast. Look after yourselves. Thank you, and thank you for your support. Chaz, you've been an amazing guest. I've just found it fascinating from beginning to end. As you can tell, it's just right up my street. I hope one day we can go on an adventure together.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Or just go for a trip in your van and put the tent up.
Do some camping out. Be good, man.
So yeah, Chaz, all the very best. Massive thank you again. Let's speak soon, yeah?
Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Right. Cheers.